Raluca, Biophilia, Technophilia in Eco Arta practice. What is this?
Okay, thank you, Mihaela. And I will talk tonight about devenirea-natură of this year edition, which is located at the intersection of two seemingly contradictory paths, Biophilia and Technophilia, two paths that, in my opinion, can be brought together by the practice of Eco Arta. So, what I will do tonight is to present briefly our concepts, and maybe later add some details and respond to some questions in Romanian, if there are any. So, I will start with the concepts, and also with our first goal, which is, in my opinion, to recharge the new technologies with an old balance, the balance of antique Greek techne, in order to reappropriate man to nature. And I will talk about Earth, a phenomenological concept coined by Heidegger, and also about flesh, concept coined by 𝐻𝐵𝒊𝒕, about the idea of becoming and the idea of entanglement. And we will start with an example of Eco Arta installation, an installation by the influential Eco artist 𝑏𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒍𝒂. And this project is a biosculpture, living sculpture, employing some plants such as ferns or mosses that can filter and clean water. And the key question raised by 𝑏𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒍𝒂 is why not grow those important plants in the ground? Why grow them on sculptures? So what do we need Eco Arta for? It's the question, in fact. And the answer was that for true ecological restoration, it's not enough to restore the ecosystem, but we need also to change ourselves, the authors of this anthropocene condition. And to affect values and to make people care about something, what we need is art. And we have to admit from the outset that ecological art as a new and dynamic field is still far from constituting the category in art history. So the art specialists, historians, and theorists have all different opinions in terms of themes and also in terms of the periodization of Eco Arta. And if we check the local art scene, what we see is that we have a lot of wonderful artists, a lot of projects, a lot of exhibitions, but no theoretical frame. So what I think we have to do is to clarify a little those key terms, Eco Arta, land art, earth art, and so on. And if we search on the internet or all the books in this field, and there are a lot, we can see some interesting strategies, particularly for Eco Arta, such as visualizing abstract data in the goal of increasing public awareness, or activating or energizing the audience to take actions and reform behaviors, dramatize or highlighting the an issue to obtain an emotional impact. But the problem is when we are looking on the right side, that if we are speaking about eco art genres, we can see in this list that all the possible genres are here. So eco art is everything. If we look here in these materials, but starting with painting, sculpture, and continuing with bio-art, generative, almost everything. And my idea is that we have to restrict or focus a little if we want to really define and understand what eco-art is. So for our paradigm, for this intersection between art and science, I think the most important genres are bio-art and biomedia. And we can distinguish them because bio-art is this species of eco-art which implies working with living matter. We can work with living plants, with animals, and even with microbes, or with natural materials such as carbon, branches, or stones. But on the other hand, biomedia, and we have here an example, a beautiful installation by our friends and collaborators, �𝐴𝐚𝐧𝐜𝐴. Biomedia refers to media art that simulates natural behavior. So as you see here in this installation, we have a lift, but the project is about the form and the behavior of the lift, and not about using natural materials. But the key idea here is that biomedia with two types of entanglement, and we have the entanglement between nature and technology, or we can say Techne, and also between Biophilia and Technophilia. And this term, biomedia, was coined in 2022 by 𝐻𝐵𝒊𝒕, the chairman of �𝐧𝐜𝐚, in an exhibition where the most important questions were who or what defines what is alive and what is intelligent, or can artificial forms of life be empathetic. But if we want to research where this intersection started, we can find Nemzum Price installations from the 70s. There are large-scale display installations that combine TV sets with all kinds of natural elements such as fish or live plants in order to create an alternative technology closely linked to nature and its principles. So there is, I think, a strong link with the term, the concept of biomedia. And also here we have an example of a project that was exhibited in Venice in the Romanian Pavilion in 2019 by 𝐵𝒊𝒕. The name of the installation is the talking plant, and it's a plastic plant that recites verses from Paul Celan. And this plant agent, we can use this term, this posthumous term from Locul, agent, exhibits all the attributes of a human being. So she possesses a body, a plastic body, but she possesses one. She awaits for the rest, she can handle iron, dirt, and so on. And I will mention some important books that I gave to the artists in our residency. And the first example is Mark Whitcomb, Landscape into Eco Art, a book where the author mapped his art practices involved with the human-nature relations in three main territories. So first we have landscape tradition in the West, and second, land art or earth art installation of the 60s and 70s, and last but not least, the contemporary eco art practices. And here we also have an example of eco art installation, a sublime installation by Mark Ryan. It's about 80 feet long tree, a dead tree kept alive with the aid of technology. So we can ask with what aesthetic categories we are working in this field of eco art. And in my opinion, we use less the beautiful and more categories, aesthetic categories such as the sublime or the uncanny. Categories which encompass negative pleasure, a layer of fright, fear. So, as �𝐴𝐻𝐿 said, eco art can be distinguished from the other two by two issues, by its strong activist character, but most important by its interdisciplinary character. So we are talking about the fear of an involvement in science and technology, and this is our main interest. And here we have a second book that I think can be useful for artists working with eco art. A book by an art history and theory scholar, Amanda Boetkes, which prefers to use the name earth art, not eco art, but earth art, in order to point out to the phenomenological core of this art practice. So, earth here has to be understood in the not in the sense of simple soil or spatial connotation, but as that hidden part of nature, that part that escapes any scientific measurements, and the research present here can contradict me, but I am speaking here about this magical and unknown core that can be, and here I use Heidegger's words, can be set forth only by the work of art. And here we have a work of art that is using this concept of earth, an installation by a Colombian artist, 𝐎𝒊𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒍𝒂, and it was exhibited also in the Venice Biennale, and it's about a labyrinth of soil and spices. And when we want to talk about the earth, we can also look at the installations and paintings of 𝐒𝒊𝒉𝒂𝒆𝒍𝒂. What she's practically doing is to reconstruct skies, night skies, and also reconstruct here is to address the stone as stone. So when you talk about earth, you are talking about material as a thing itself. So we are trying to forget the functionality, the human functionality of matter, and think more in a phenomenological tradition of things themselves. And another important concept is the fourfold, and it is also a concept from German phenomenology. And I used here also a project exhibited in Venice of the project to see the Earth before the end of the world of Prezentare, an artist that I simply adore. And the fourfold, we called it in Romanian devenirea-natură, is about humans as mortals that have to be in a state of balance with sky, earth, and transcendence or divinity. And you see here this word, this term earth, is referring to all the natural elements that are present here in the picture, the stones and water and wind and so on. So it's not simply the soil. Okay, and speaking about some allegations of this concept of earth that can be related with national socialism, we can see some contemporary art projects like this one, to see the Earth before the end of the world, where the Earth is somehow linked with important critics of colonialism. And here the artist is talking about the relationship between slavery and the cultivation of the plant of sugarcane. Another interesting concept is the concept of dwelling. In Romanian we say Biophilia, and this concept was very much used in the theory of architecture. You probably know the book �𝐚𝐴 by Christian Norbert. And here the idea was that to dwell is not can't be defined just as to the simple possession of an address or a place to stay, but to dwell is to be yourself and to feel at home. So the idea of Norbert was that if you are born, for example, in Venice, where you have all this water around and all those old buildings, your identity is very influenced by this landscape and by the natural elements. And here I have another example. This work was exhibited in Documenta 15 by National Collective, and the title is Vietnamese Immigrating Garden. And I think the important question here is if to dwell is can be equal with to be at home. The question is, can an immigrant dwell? And another important question another important concept for our project is wild or wildness. And if you check, and an unexpected fact was, when you check it in the Oxford English Dictionary, you find that it implies mostly negative connotations, such as rude or out of control when applied to a person, or destructive, wasted, dangerous when applied to a piece of land. So the environmental ethics scholar Philip Castaro reminds us that wildlands, in the sense of uncultivated by people, are neither waste nor lawless or disorderly. And a corresponding consideration of this value of wildness can be found in the work of �𝐚𝐧𝐜, which he claimed as his artwork, a patch of grass in Shanghai that was to be leveled by bulldozers. Another way to approach nature is by using the two meanings differentiated in the 19th century by Mill in his essays. And the first one is the physical world as a whole, including human. And the second is the meaning that we already know, that which takes place without the agency of man. And what was happening in the recent years is that drawing on the first sense of nature proposed here by Mill, some proponents of Anthropocene were mostly scientists such as Paul Crutzen, the well-known author of the Living in the Anthropocene Manifesto, rejected any distinction between the natural and the built. So, in their opinion, the nature with capital N is dead today, and all we have is artificial nature, such as this GFP bunny, one of the first creations of bio-art, and the artist here is the well-known Raluca. And another important idea is that in response to the Anthropocene post-natural rhetoric, artists and phenomenologists alike have searched for alternative ways to conserve the natural and the artificial as interdependent part of a relation. So we have an example here, Ted Botvine, which is a well-known eco-phenomenologist. He coined the term the unbuilt. This term picks out what we neither construct nor control, nor necessarily understand, but on which our building constantly relies, such as rain, gravity, sunshine, and so on. So we can talk here about the entanglement between natural and artificial. And an example here is another project that I really like by Ronnie Horn, the Library of Water. Is an archive here composed by 24 columns that are containing water collected from glaciers around Iceland. And one or maybe two of them are already dead. And this idea of an entanglement, or the idea of intertwining between human nature and technology, is also present in important works such as Donna Haraway's Cyborg Manifesto or in Anna Tzing's The Mushroom at the End of the World. Or in works, and I have here some video works from exhibited also in the Venice Biennale, such as songs from The Compost or 𝐿 by 𝐼𝒨𝒂, but we can also add Technophilia, the project that was exhibited last year in Timișoara at Art Encounters. And the idea here is the idea of the human-vegetal hybridization. And to explain this on is flesh and reversibility. And to understand this concept, you have to start from the ambiguous status of the human body, that is both subject and object, and we can make a little experiment with our hands, and we can try to touch with one hand our other hand, and when you do this, after a time, you are not so sure what the hand, what the active hand, and what's the passive hand, what's the subject, and what's the object of the touching. So this is the reversibility that can be also applied between human and nature. Let's say human and the forest, and this was an example commented by �𝒊𝒕 and by Cézanne, by painters, when they were in a landscape and they were trying to represent the landscape, they felt this sensation that the forest or the landscape was looking back at them. Flesh is not referring exclusively to the materiality of the body, though in many ways the human body is emblematic of the flesh, but have to be considered as more as the ontological fabric of the world. So we have the flesh of the human, but also the flesh of things and the flesh of the world, and they are intertwined. And this is the last slide. I was wondering further on about what aesthetic categories can we use when we are talking about eco art, and I mentioned sublime, so that double pleasure, negative and positive pleasure. And a similar category is the uncanny. The uncanny is very in fashion those days, and you can see here the well-known AI work with Will Smith eating spaghetti, and but I don't know how many of you know that this concept was coined a very long time ago by Freud. And Freud's idea of the uncanny was that it is a species of the frightening that involves an essential ambivalence between the familiar and the unfamiliar, between Heimlich and unheimlich. And Freud gave us some examples such as wax figures or constructed dolls or automata, and also he talked about subvert limbs or about feet that stand by themselves. And my idea here is that this dual nature of being hidden and familiar at the same time of the uncanny is important, that it points both to earth and nature and also to technology. So we have this intersection between Biophilia and Technophilia. And the last book I want to mention very briefly is a book of another important eco-phenomenologist, 𝐿 The Memory of Place, the Phenomenology of the Uncanny. And if you want all those material, I can send you PDF. And I think that was it.